My beloved brothers and sisters, this video is called Act Out of Strength and Not Out of Weakness. Men have betrayed society and have allowed themselves to be betrayed in turn. The Masons were an all-male fraternity, an all-male organization. And this did not elude the Lord Almighty. Of course it didn't. These weak men acted out of weakness, their inability to discipline themselves and refrain from acting on their complexes, which are their weaknesses. And in turn, they teamed up with the weakest of women, the most unscrupulous and dangerous of men, because of their great capacity for evil. That capacity being unchecked, for every man has a great capacity for evil. Men, fat, skinny, short, tall, alike, teamed up together to betray everything that was true. My white brothers, I do not believe that you are evil, and this is where I disagree with some of my people. One of the places. The Hebrew Israelites, for instance, to think that white people are the descendants of Esau, and as such, they should be destroyed by the black people who are the descendants of Jacob. I do not agree. I believe it is the nurture of man and their inability to transcend that makes them think, feel, and behave in an evil and inferior fashion. It's the same thing with women. Men are closer to God naturally. And other than that, there is very little difference between man and woman in the eyes of the Lord. However, it is the nurture that ultimately determines who is closer to God than who. For that reason, a woman can be closer to God than a man, and a thief can be closer to God than a police officer. The key word being can. Many of you think that for your children's sake you should act out of weakness. Of course, you do not think of it as weakness. You think of it as endurance and for the sake of longevity and maintaining your family lineage, your family line. These inglorious bastards will stop at nothing to convince you that that is the case, including getting your own people to convince you as well. We must act out of strength and accept the repercussions. We must lead by example. Even if our children are to be taken from us by pedophiles, they must be raised knowing that their parents acted out of strength. It is up to the revolutionaries and the community at large to make sure that the truth is spread. That these children had parents who were of God, and that is why they had to endure the hardships of their childhood. Perhaps when they are younger, they will not understand. So be it. But they will as they get older. And they will realize that they had the best parents of all, not the worst. That it was because their parents loved God and loved their children that they refused to raise their children the way that the state wanted them to. That they refused to conform and raise conformist children. We must endure chemical, germ, and biological warfare. We must endure their psychological, unconventional, and spiritual warfare. We must endure in order for righteousness to be renewed from generation to generation. If we do not, we curse our children to be the children of Babylon. They will no longer be the children of God in righteousness. They will be the children of the devil, having been raised by the devil who acts as our puppet master. This unethical devil is similar to the engineer or the antagonist in the movie Saw, having set up a game where you must play his game in order to escape. Should we raise our children to play the game or to die with their honor intact? Well, the answer to that question is very simple with the individual. If they believe in God, then certainly they must raise their children to die with their honor intact. But if they don't really believe in God, then why not sell out to survive? But then, if you choose the latter, another question arises. Well, where do you draw the line? Should you kill your mother to survive? Should you rape, drug, steal, and commit mass murder to survive? Where do you draw the line? And if you choose to compromise in a world that is incrementally getting more and more evil, are you not cursing your children to your descendants to be more and more evil generation after generation? The line is pushed more and more with each generation. The expectations are increased from generation to generation. So I tell you the truth, as I always do. We must act out of strength and not weakness. We must accept the worst the devil has to inflict upon us. We must transcend anguish, suffering, lamenting, and pain. We must be as prisoners of war, captured by Satan, following a code given to us by God, as we are tortured in the prison which is this world. We must endure. Even if I was to suffer for 1,000 lives, those lives would be all the more glorious because of my action, which would be an action derived from strength and not weakness. We must weather the storm. We must hold on. We must stand firm to the end. If your loved ones must suffer because you did the right thing, then cry. But do not cry tears of sorrow. Cry tears of joy, for their reward will be great in heaven. And you have honored thy holy Father. We must not succumb to Babylon's treachery, coercion, and devilish activities. Keep on trucking. Be strong. Defy all that is wicked and evil. Stand for that which is glorious, virtuous, righteous, noble, and true. Fight for honor and achieve it. Fight for God and embrace Him. Fight for your children and do not betray them. Act out of strength and not weakness.